All right, good evening. Welcome to the March 26th meeting of the Grafton Board of Selectmen. First item on our agenda is the alcoholic license for Village Dairy. And we're going to enter into executive session, so I will entertain a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of
Strategy for pending litigation.
strategy for pending litigation.
Second.
And
Something else?
what were you going to say?
To hold this in open session.
After we
Yeah,
vote.
after
Oh,
I
I'm
vote,
sorry.
right?
Okay.
And then, all right, so by roll call?
Spinny eye.
Thomas, aye?
Dolphin AI. Frisbee,
Hannah, aye. And after the motion, okay, so to discuss these matters in open session will compromise the town's position and needs to be discussed in executive session, the chair so declares. And we will enter back into this room as soon as we're done in there, so hang tight. Okay, we are back. And we'll have the public hearing on the or actually, on the Arslan Inc. application for the alcohol license. If somebody wants to,
I'll make a motion to open the hearing on the applications of Arslan Incorporated, filed with the board.
have a second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, do we have somebody here?
Mr. Rubin's here.
Come on up.
Would you like me to approach the,
Yes, please. So we're going to talk about the change of manager application and,
so, thank you for having me, by the way. My client is here, Mr. Chaudhry.
wait, you know what, before we do this, we're going to swear you in.
Sure.
So,
You want to swear me and you want to swear my clients in?
clients,
Okay.
anyone who's going to give testimony,
Where would you like them to,
right over here at the top.
Mr. Chaudhry and Mary? Just come in here so they can swear you in.
Go on. So do you swear that everything you're about to tell us tonight is complete 100% truth?
Yes, I do.
And you swear that under oath?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you can go ahead, Mr. Rubin. Oh, and as yourself as well?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm going to stand if that's okay with the board. So there are two matters I'd like the selectmen to address tonight. The first one involves the renewal of Arslan's beer and wine license under Chapter 138, Section 15. As you probably know from your counsel, we've had a lot of activity on the case, quite a bit of litigation. Most significantly, we had a hearing before Judge Ritter in the Superior Court in Worcester on August 28, 2018. And in the judge's decision, the judge ordered that the town of Grafton begin proceedings to act on Arslan's renewal application. I won't go into all of the weeds of it here, but the gist of it was that the Judge Ritter felt that the town had thwarted Arslan in getting its license renewed in 2016 and ordered the town to begin renewal proceedings pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 16A.
Attorney Rubin, can I just
Go ahead.
for 1 second?
Sure.
Sir, you might want
Yeah.
to right now.
Well, okay, so you whatever votes and actions this board takes this evening, it is explicitly not waiving its appellate rights with respect to the Superior Court's decision currently being exercised in the appeals court. So do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
And do you understand that?
Yes,
Okay.
So.
And you received notice that the board was going to hold a hearing tonight to consider the materials you filed with the town, correct?
I received through my attorney, not any direct notice or anything.
And do you understand that the board is going to consider whether to approve your application for renewal after this hearing tonight?
My understanding is yes.
Do you understand that you can call any witnesses you wish to testify on your behalf?
I wasn't aware and I don't think I have any witness.
Okay, do you understand that you can request that the board postpone its consideration of your application if you are not prepared to go forward?
If my attorney suggests, yes.
Do you request a postponement?
No.
So you are prepared based on the notice you received from the town to go forward tonight?
Right. And I want to add that while I understand that the town may be pursuing further appellate remedies, which it certainly can do, our position is that the application has to be renewed under Chapter 138, Section 16A. I want to read to you the last two sentences of Section 16A, which I think apply here. Any such application may, however, be rejected for cause, subject to appeal under Section 67. A person whose application has been so rejected by the local licensing authorities shall, for the purposes of this Section 17, be deemed to have been granted a license until the period for such an appeal has expired or until his appeal has been dismissed. So, the way I read that, in plain English, is that if the town wants to pursue its appellate remedies, it certainly may, but while it is doing that, the license needs to be reinstated forthwith. That is what the statute says. So our position tonight is that the license needs to be reinstated. There is the clause in there that a municipality can turn down a license for cause. I don't know what that means in the context of here, except for the fact that the town is probably concerned about prior violations that my client has had. And as we all know, that particular issue has been litigated. It has been litigated through the ABCC. It has been litigated twice in the Superior Court, most recently with Judge Ritter. And then we argued that before a single justice of the Appeals Court. So all of the decisions have basically reinforced the ABCC's recommendation back in 2014, which was that the appropriate sanction for this was a 20-day suspension of the license and for my client to get a new manager. So my client got his license back in February of 2015. It was reinstated by the ABCC following a reappeal. He continued to sell beer and wine at his store through the end of 2015. The town did not issue, they issued an application to every license holder in Grafton except for my client. We appealed that, and the Superior Court and the Appeals Court said that the license was improperly withheld. My client was thwarted from getting the license, and reinstatement should begin. So at this point, my client does not have his license. And that's been the situation from January 1st, 2016 up until the present. So that's a period of about 3 years and almost 4 months. That's well beyond the 20 days that the ABCC had recommended. So I'm asking the board to renew the license under Section 16A, and I'm asking the board to do that forthwith. If there is any other reason that the board does not want to renew the license, then I would like to know what it is, and then we can try to address that, either here or in the future. The final thing I want to say is that when I was before the Selectmen last year, there was concern about the suitability of the manager. And I thought that it would be helpful for my client to bring Mary Manoir, who is the proposed manager if the license gets renewed, to be the full-time manager of the Village Dairy Store here in Grafton. She can tell you more about her qualifications, but she's tip certified, she's had experience selling alcohol to the public, and I think she would be a good candidate, but that's from me. You'll have to flesh it out yourself. She's available here if you have any questions or concerns about her qualifications, suitability, or anything else. That's it. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Before we start,
Jenny, did you have something?
who's have any questions for Miriam? The applicant, the attorney?
Yeah, how long have you been managing stores selling alcohol?
Since 2013.
Have you had any violations in other establishments that you worked
Not
at?
in my lifetime.
What's your background, where you worked?
I'm sorry?
What's your background going backwards? Where have you worked before this? Where have you managed?
Since I turned 21, I'm working in the tail business.
How old are you now?
27.
Okay, so you've been working for 6 years?
Yeah, since 2013.
Where?
Sitco in Sturbridge.
Any violations at Sitco and Sturbridge?
No, sir.
What do they sell?
Alcohol and beer and wine, yeah.
What process do you go through at Sitco and Sturbridge to determine who's of age to buy alcohol, beer, and wine?
We have a system there, so we scan ID and it tells you right away. So the first thing we ask is ID.
What kind of system is that? Can you describe it?
It's a real ID. You put a ID in there and it scans it, and on the computer it shows you a whole detail about it.
Okay, are you planning on doing this at the Village Dairy?
That's right, yes.
Okay, who's going to install that system?
I'm sorry?
Who's going to install that system?
Well, the people, they come and do stuff for you. They
You have a
send
vendor
yeah,
that
yeah.
comes in and does it. Okay, does it cost money per year to have that system, or is it one-time software that you buy?
I think it costs monthly.
It costs monthly, okay, and the Village Dairy is going to pay for that?
Yes.
Okay, when you do it, when you use this system, do you take the ID from the individual purchaser?
Yes.
Okay, what do you do with it then?
You put it in the scanner and it scans it and they give it back a whole detail on the screen. And it tells the age, expiration date, and if it's something, fake or something, it tells you what's wrong with it.
Okay,
And then you go with it.
what's preventing the person behind the counter who's of age from putting in their ID instead of the ID that they get from a purchaser to fake the system?
I still get that.
So if you're 18
Yes.
and I'm 43,
Yeah.
if you gave me your ID
Oh, well,
and I
yeah.
just put in my own ID,
Oh, no. You can't do that. You have to, it's their system. I mean,
well, you can't do that because that would be dishonest. But the problem that
it's
we've
right
run
there.
into
They
before,
can see what you're doing. I mean, it's not somewhere hidden. It's, so right on the front. They can see what you're doing.
okay, but who's they? Not the purchaser. The purchaser doesn't care if they get
The
get
one
alcohol.
who's working, the clerk that works there.
Okay.
Has to do it, not the customer itself.
Would there be cameras behind the counter to record
Record,
any
yes.
activities? Okay. Anyone else?
Yes. Does the cash drawer open if you do not scan an ID?
No.
Okay, so you must scan an ID.
Scan it.
And I think what he was getting at, I don't know if you quite understood, is that if an underage person comes in to buy alcohol that
Okay.
does not have an ID, and I'm like, that's okay,
Oh,
I
you
want to
can't
sell
just
them
go
some.
to the next step. That's what it is.
No, but if you have a dishonest employee behind the counter that wants to sell them alcohol anyway, couldn't they just put their own ID in there to make the sale?
Yeah, or if, for instance, I come in 10 times. On the 11th time, you know me, you know I'm over 21. I forgot my ID in the car, I forgot it at home. You can scan yours, so that way we can just, move the transaction along.
No, you can't do that. I mean, every time someone walks in, it's like a new customer to me. It doesn't matter how many times it shows up at the door. You know what I mean? It's coming to the store. It's just a brand new customer, a new transaction.
As manager, how many hours a week are you going to be working?
5 days.
5
Or
days a
more
week?
if they're gonna need me, yes.
8 hours a day?
7 days a week,
Okay. How
and
many?
8 hours a day.
What are the hours of the store going to be for selling alcohol? I assume it's going to be what, 10 to.
It's 10 to 11 at the Sundays,
Okay.
and then 8 to 11 of the regular days.
Okay. And you're going to be there. What
Morning.
percentage of the time? Morning.
Yes.
Who's going to be working when you're not there?
Probably someone from the family that I trust,
Okay.
not someone dishonest, because we're just tired of that now.
Anyone from the family that you trust that we've encountered before?
No.
Okay.
Well, I would say, yeah, someone I know I could trust on.
Because here's our problem. I mean, there's obviously a history here.
No one, someone from outside, you can't trust it. I mean, we got cameras, we know what they're doing. You can watch.
Okay.
The best we can do to, kind of stop the things like that.
So your policy is to card everybody,
Eddie,
no matter
no matter what they
look like, no matter what their age
Can't
is.
trust the eyes, so you have to scan it.
So when you scan something, it, of course, embedded in your point of sale, software. So is it linked to a transaction? So you scan an ID and you sell somebody a 6-pack of whatever. It's linked to that particular ID that was presented.
I'm not sure about that part.
So yeah, there's some software out there that you just scan. It makes sure that it's not a fake ID. You just take a look at it. It's on camera, something like that. And then there's other variants of it that link it to a particular transaction. So if you actually do have a sale of alcohol, it actually tells you who it was being sold to because you took that information from his ID or her ID. So in this case, you're just checking an ID of anybody who's there.
Rick, you have anything?
No, I mean, well, one thing, I guess, there'd be nothing that would prevent you from doing just a cash sale and not running it through the register, right? You could do that whenever you wanted. In other words, don't run the sale through the register.
No, I mean, everything's through the register.
But there's nothing preventing you from not running it through the register. You could do strictly a cash sale and not even,
I mean,
you know what I mean?
So you could ring up something different.
Oh, no.
You could ring up something and just
I mean,
take the
we
money and
inventory
not
every-
use the cash register at all. There's nothing to prevent you from
I
doing
mean,
that.
we do inventory too, so the stuff we get in.
Right.
So can't just go from one place.
Yeah, your
to
inventory
another.
would be off, but it's possible.
I mean,
Can I ask
I
you,
would hope that you wouldn't, but
can I ask you a question? What do you guys think was the problem all these years when you were busted time after time after time again? It's not good for your reputation. What are you going to do differently?
It's the outside help we had.
But you're responsible for
Yes,
the outside
yes.
help, right?
That's
so
what I'm-
what you're telling me is you're bringing in her, and she
Yeah.
she seems very nice and very competent.
Yes.
But at the same time, the outside help before you're responsible for,
Yeah,
and
we're
now
not-
you're responsible for her.
We're not hiring outside help now.
not anymore, no.
We like to do a fresh start, no more outside help. You pay 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 an hour, and the person who commits a crime here, he's working right next door to you. You can't stop him.
Yeah.
It's people don't understand what's on the stake for the store owner or the license holder when they commit a crime or a mistake. It's just a mistake for them. For the other party like me, it's 4 years of livelihood that we wasted, we lost it. So we decided, at least for the time being, at least the first year, we don't want anybody from outside. It's going to be just a family.
Okay.
At least they will feel the pain I feel going through this 4 years, paying my attorneys and not having the business. Outside employees not, does it, regardless of, like you were saying, anybody can sell it on a cash, regardless of having all that material and the stuff that can support you to check the ID. A person behind, if he's doesn't have anything on the stake, he's just an employee, and most employees don't take it as it's their own asset or something, or they don't have a stake into the business. A buddy walks in and says, "Hey, I'm your buddy, blah, blah, blah. Can I have a six-pack?" Or a nice, good-looking girl walks in, a kid is 22-year-old working. How long it's gonna take him to sell that six-pack? Maybe 1 day, 2 days? Obviously, he will do exactly what you said, sell it off the counter on a cash.
No, I mean, we're all people in this world, and I understand that. We've all
Yeah,
been
I
young. But at
do.
the same time, what
Yes.
I want to know from you isn't just that you understand the financial hit you took.
Yes.
But I want to know what other impacts in the community do you think that your underage sales had?
Well, first of all, whoever buys and gets hooked onto liquor, it's a waste of life. And no matter what, it's a life of a kid outside. It's my kid or your kid. I feel the same way you guys do. But 6 to 11, you can't be there. You can be 10 hours, 12 hours. You can check on the cameras. Most people today's, if you look at the workers, stay with you how many months? 3 months, 3.5 months? That's what the static says. In order to have somebody on your side to feel that not only it's a responsibility, and also if you make a mistake, what's on the stake, and also we live in the community, we are a part of a community. It's just not a business. As long the business serves the community in a way that it makes its profit but doesn't tamper or hurt the community is fine. The minute it does, you see the people like me standing here. So what I'm saying is that we're not going to hire anybody from outside. That's what we're going to do right now.
Okay.
So you held a license in the town of Grafton for approximately 13 years, correct?
Yes, correct.
And during that time, there were like 5 occasions that you were caught selling alcohol to minors, correct?
Not exactly me, but my employees. I'm responsible for that.
And you did not dispute on any of those occasions that you or someone you employed sold alcohols to minors on those 5 occasions, correct?
One occasion. One occasion we disputed that.
The board issued progressive sanctions and ordered training on each of those occasions, correct?
Yes, correct.
And the board finally voted to revoke your license after the final violation, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you guys have any other information that you want to present tonight for this application?
We didn't have the revealing ID software that's available now, that when a person approached to buy you a beer or a wine or any liquor product, you know, obviously you look at the appearance first, you know, at the person, if he's come of the age or not, or his appearance is drunk or not. But the next thing is to practically do your job, grab the ID. And now the software is available that you can scan it. It provides the whole detail.
Yeah.
It also shows if the ID is fake. It also shows if it's valid or not. It also shows if the person has come of the age or not.
Well, I would disagree with you. I would say that you should do that for every customer. I wouldn't just look at if they look like they're 18 or if they're 21 or they're 50. I would ask every customer what that walks in.
Every single customer has to do that. What I said is that when a first customer walks at the counter and brings a 6-pack or a 4-pack beer or wine, the first we look at the customer. The second question is, may I have your ID? In today's day, we have the software available that can help us out to determine the age, and you don't have to guess anybody, and you don't have to be sure that the ID is fake or not. It tells you all the details on the screen.
So there's nothing in particular that we can, for your renewal process, that you'd be willing to give us? Because as soon as you leave here, you know, in 3 months' time, you could say, I don't want, I'm spending $150 or whatever it is on this particular software system. I got my license back. I don't need to do this anymore. And in a year or in 6
If-
months, you could say, I'm gonna hire some more, you know, people to come in that are outside your family. I understand what your perspective.
If you ask me, I'm planning to get out.
You're planning to get out of life.
Yeah, I'm planning to get my license and sell off the place.
So you're trying to get reestablished for a license.
So
just
I can get
move.
what's worth my place is. For the past 4 years, it's down to the zero.
Okay, so you see our particular situation. There's
Yes.
been a history of violations,
Yeah.
which,
I,
and I
I,
can't bind you to anything that says you're gonna do anything that you say here tonight. But in the
if
past 5
4 years,
years,
if I didn't thought the license was precious enough to be at my place to have it, or I didn't need it to run my operation, I wouldn't be 4 years back and forth in the court, spending all that money if I wanted to have that software for 15 days or 30 days and say, I have my license back. Now let's do what I was doing before. As I said, I take fully responsibility that it's only my family is gonna run it, and during that period, we're gonna see a suitable buyer to sell it out. And
What
get
time period are we talking
our
about?
money. Pardon?
What kind of time period are we talking about for that?
If I find somebody in 6 months when the place is up where it was before, 6 years ago when we had a beer and wine, it's gonna need at least a year to bring it back to a level where we were 5 years ago. It's, nobody's gonna buy it as the rundown place.
So you'd be looking to get out within the next 12 months or so?
Yes. So,
Anybody have anything else? Anything else you care to add, wish to add to this?
no.
Board, anyone else? All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
so moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to close the hearing on this alcohol license. Doesn't need to be roll call, or, no, all right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So, we've heard everything. Yeah, you guys can sit down if you want now.
Thank
You're good to go. So, I mean, this is a tough one. You know, on one hand, we have a certain responsibility right now to obviously make a decision, and there's kind of a, you know, it's a double-edged sword here. I feel like there's a true right or wrong answer, and I don't know if that's the answer we can give tonight. And you know, I'm kind of in a spot where I don't know how to proceed.
Okay.
I know, but I get what I'm saying is I'm just kind of more flustered than I was before we walked in today, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I thought
So,
this was gonna be easier.
Yeah,
you won't, go ahead, Craig.
well, you sure?
Yeah, I can follow, it's fine.
All right. For me, I appreciate you all coming in tonight, and I know it's been a very long process and a frustrating one for all of us, especially those of us who've been around for a while, like Attorney Rubin, right, and the applicant. For me, I mean, I guess the position that the owner has taken is certainly different than the ones that he's taken in the past, as far as not just being apologetic for his staff, selling to minors, but trying to do something about it. My concern is that it took a very, very long time to get here, and a lot of violations followed by a lot of non-action and no change in behavior. So I just, for me, there's too much history and repeated offenses for me to go along with granting a liquor license to this property owner. So, if this had happened on violation 2 or 3, when there was some minor suspensions, and something that other establishments have gone through, and we've done progressive discipline with those, and they've made corrective action so that, and changed their behavior so that these things didn't happen again, and that's never happened with this applicant, and I think that was the reason for the license being taken away. So that, and I'll shut up now, but that's kind of where I'm at.
I tend to agree with Craig in that matter, but I do appreciate that the new manager came in, and I believe that she answered the questions the way we need them to be answered, and with the software and the policy that you have to be 21 and every single person will be carded, and that the cameras will be in place, and if there is one violation, you know that would be it. Again, I came in here thinking, no, because there's too much history and we have to protect the town, but I'm kind of on the fence now.
I mean, I think 3-4 years ago, the last time they came in for a renewal, I think the biggest problem that this board had at the time, I know myself, was that we wanted to, we felt that the manager of record who the license was going to be issued to ultimately didn't have enough experience. And we felt that was a huge problem because of the history. And all we asked was, come back, get us a new manager, and let's see what we can do. And it's been, 3 years later, and that's exactly what you guys ended up doing. I don't know, it just took that much longer to get here. So I'm kind of glad that you do have the new manager. And so, that's what I was looking for. I see that you're going to implement this license scan ID thing. To Jen's point, if we do grant this and there's a violation, I mean, talk about having egg on your face. You're going to, that'll be a problem, especially you're saying you're trying to sell this place, you're trying to bring it back to what it is. You know and understand that it's in your best interest to just make sure that you follow all the rules and you take care of business in that manner. So,
Attorney Rubin, what's the argument based on the renewal criteria that this should be granted?
The argument is in Chapter 138, Section 16A, which I...
Could you go through that with me one more time?
Sure.
I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, I tell you what, I may have an extra copy of it, but let me read to you what I did was I highlighted for myself, and I'll show it to you.
Oh.
The
16A, I'm sorry.
It's Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 16A.
Automatic renewal of existing licenses.
So, I'll just highlight what I think are the important parts of that to try to answer your question.
Mm-hmm.
So, the first sentence of the statute says that the license
But let me just focus the area of my inquiry here. Any such application may, however, be rejected for cause, right?
correct.
Okay. What's for cause, according to your application?
Well, the statute doesn't give us a lot of history on what it means, so we have to kind of decipher it. The way I read it is for cause. I read it with the plain meaning of it, which is what is the reason for denying a license. Okay, so in the context of the application that we have here, the town has concerns about the prior violations.
Valid concerns?
I'm sorry?
Valid concerns?
There are concerns, okay? I mean,
Attorney Rubin, you'd go a long way right now if you acknowledge that the fact that these concerns are valid. I mean, I have a hard time moving forward without someone acknowledging that what happened in the past is valid.
the answer is yes,
Okay.
all right? But I also want to add that there were two commendations by the police chief. I think he's now retired. I can't recall his name off the top of my head. But I have in the file, and it came up during the ABCC administrative proceedings, that Mr. Chaudhry was commended by the Grafton police chief for following through on all of the procedures that he did.
That's all well and good, but
No, I'm
as
just trying to balance
but
it
as
out.
we in this community all know, if you want to find alcohol underage, that's where you would go in years past. And we have kids here, and none of us want to see our kids go to that store and buy alcohol, and certainly our constituents don't want their kids going to that store and buying alcohol. So as many commendations as you can get, that's all well and good. But I want some, at least acknowledgement that what happened in the past happened, and they're taking ownership of that.
Well, it did happen, and with regard to this violation, which occurred in 2013, we never contested the fact that it happened. The sole issue throughout, these 5+ years of litigation has been what the punishment should be.
Well, hold on, because there are two different things there. You're acknowledging that it happened, and I know that it happened, you know it happened, they know it happened, because they've been out without alcohol sales for 4 years. I'm asking them to take ownership. Do they take responsibility for that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, there are two things that you heard tonight. One is that he now has a qualified manager that's going to take an active interest in the daily routine and who gets sold what, and they're going to verify that the IDs are valid IDs. That's number one. Also, as Mr. Chaudhry said earlier, when the last violations occurred, they did not have the software to verify that the IDs were not valid. So your concern is well taken, and it's a combination of not just saying, I will do a better job. He now has the personnel and the equipment, which is the software, to make sure that whoever is sold beer or wine is done so in a proper manner and complies with the laws of Massachusetts and any local regulations here in Grafton.
Okay, so as far as cause goes, though, we've got past violations, and your contention is that the past violations have been litigated, correct?
Yes,
Have they been litigated to their conclusion?
well, I think they have, although your legal counsel may view it differently, but
Well, I'm sure she does. So
But-
until
but-
the court tells us otherwise,
Well-
those past violations could still be cause for the purposes of 16A, right?
Well, I think that is the cause in the statute. However, as I said before, when you look at the last couple of sentences of Section 16A, the law says that a person whose application has been so rejected by the local licensing authorities shall, for the purposes of section 17, be deemed to have been granted such a license until the period for such an appeal has expired
If I can just
or
say
until it has
what,
been dismissed.
okay, what section 17 is solely regarding is the number of liquor license that a municipality is allowed to issue.
Right.
So I read that to mean, if it's denied, you still have to pretend that it's issued because it still counts towards your upper limit, city or town. So until it's finally litigated, you can't go and give that, if you're up at your limit, you can't go and give that
Right.
license to some other business. So yes, so I think that, because then then if he wins in the end, then you'll be over your limit. So I read that as completely irrelevant to the standard before the board tonight.
Someday I'll want to know what happens next after that, but that's a whole other discussion
Okay.
from here.
Bruce, you got anything?
I had something a couple minutes ago. You'll come back to me. Say everyone else has.
Discussion
Well,
is almost
yeah,
over,
that's
so.
what I'm saying, so I would,
It
you
is
know,
over when you want it to be over.
so I will entertain
Yeah.
a motion right now, one way or the other. Or maybe in the affirmative.
All right, for discussion, I will make a motion, to renew the liquor license for the package store wine and malt Arslan Incorporated DBA Village Dairy, 167 Main Street, South Grafton, pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 138.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion.
So there's absolutely nothing we can do with what we're doing right now to bind anything. So we can't go in and we can't check. All we can do is go through our normal process, which we've done 5 times now. And we're hanging our hat that there's not gonna be a 6th.
Well, unless you make it part of the motion, you could add in details about what we would like to see.
Conditions.
And the timing of those conditions. You can add benchmarks for that if somebody wanted to do that in the motion.
I guess the only way I would be in support of this if we had some type of binding condition. And if it's just us saying it and it doesn't hold up once it goes past here, then I'll need something from the applicants.
And you don't have to put it in the motion. Somebody could speak to that and
I
get.
I think
get
if it's
time.
voluntary, I don't think there's anything to prevent that. If he wants to voluntarily
Yeah.
agree to anything,
Historically, we would have the chief here and we would have some type of a timeline and some criteria, and the chief would be responsible for checking up on that. Is that a fair statement, Tim?
Generally, yeah.
You know, in instances like this, there would be an agreement on what would be done and when it wouldn't be done. And then there'd be accountability for that. Which wouldn't be part of the motion, I guess, which wouldn't be part of the motion, so. It would be agreed upon before the motion was voted on.
May I ask, what do you have in mind?
I don't have anything in mind.
I suppose I should have said something before it, but we're in the middle of our motion now, so, this type of sausage making probably should get dialed back a little bit. And I should have said something before we got to the motion.
Well, under discussion, I mean, you could ask the applicant.
Yeah, but you're making fundamental alterations to our motion.
We could
can
withdraw it
everybody-
then.
I can withdraw it if you want.
All right, that
Want me
makes
to-
me feel better.
You want me to withdraw the motion?
I would.
I will withdraw my motion.
Withdraw your second?
I will.
All right, so back to the discussion.
So, just from my perspective, we're here at this, everybody comes up and says everything that they're gonna do, and then of course the next violation happens, and then you're right back to square one. Obviously, we're at step 5 now, and somebody else is trying to dictate for me, for my particular vote, what I should be doing in this particular situation. And it's carried on and carried on, and you're at the point now where we've never been at this point with a particular vendor. It's all well and good that you're gonna hire family members, it's all well and good that you're gonna put a software system in place. But once I say yes in this particular situation, you're kind of free and clear to do whatever you want. So if you are concerned with selling the property, if you are concerned with getting a license back from you know, from my perspective, is there anything that you can do that would guarantee me of these measures that you're gonna put in place? Like, you know, we can condition this particular decision on, the software being up and running and us to be able to actually go in and see it up and running. And make sure that the cameras are actually looking at the screen, make sure, you know, can we come back in 6 months and check in, see how this is doing, quarterly or something like that, because we are in unprecedented water from the board's perspective. We've never had five by so, I mean, 4 of them he didn't even contest. So, you know, we obviously, there is a problem here. And I want to see us get past this. It's tough for me to vote on something when clearly you don't deserve a license. So if we're dialing it back, then I need something like in writing, so to speak. And yeah, I guess it doesn't have to be in writing because it will be here and you'll be part of it. But is there any willingness to enter into that type of agreement? Sorry.
Well, I want to run it by my client before I commit to anything, but I guess my initial reaction is that if these conditions are reasonable and somebody wants from the town, I'm not sure who that would be, but somebody from the town wants to take a look at the cameras, the software, and make sure that everything is being done properly. I don't think that's a bad idea. It might be a good idea, but I've got to talk to my client about it. I'm not. Are there? Here's my thought right now. If there's any concerns or conditions that the selectmen would like to have, bring it on now. And then if I could have a couple minutes, I'll go out into the corridor and speak to my client about it and see what his thought is on it.
So we're doing? All right.
May I speak to the board?
Well, not yet.
No.
Hold on. I want to just make sure that everybody, that the select men and select women have expressed all of their concerns. I don't want to do this piecemeal, so whatever concerns you have, let's get it up front now.
I think having that piece of equipment installed and inspected by somebody from, you know,
We'll
whether-
send the chief over to make sure that
Chief
the
of police
system's
and
out.
just
That would be the chief of police.
Yep.
Okay, and who is the chief of police now?
Norman Crapo?
Oh, it's still Norman Crepo.
Yeah.
Oh,
or somebody or that he, you know, delegates. Yeah,
Yeah.
to just go down and just make sure that is being processed and how it works and at least if that's installed, and once that thing is installed and we get the thumbs up from the chief, you know, maybe that is something that we could be agreeable to.
That would be at startup, and I'd like them to come back once a quarter while we're in this process and make sure you're actually, the software system's still in place. We see people we're comfortable with.
You want them to come back here, or you want the chief to go
No,
back?
I want the chief to go
Okay.
there. That's the instrument we're using.
all right, so you're looking at it, so you're proposing an inspection of every 3 months. That's every quarter.
They
Is that,
come back
is that,
every year for a renewal anyways, right? So, yeah, I guess that's, would make me much more comfortable.
And it would be, the license, the renewal would be issued pending,
Subject to.
subject to the
Inspection.
equipment being installed and, inspected by the chief and his basically sign off of it, I guess.
So can I just kind of summarize for myself so I can give
Sure.
the chief clear instructions on what he'll be looking at? Software, cameras, inspections quarterly, chief or his designee to make sure it's working properly, you know, owner, the person doing the transaction, they're not gonna witness that. They're just gonna see, I put an ID in, I could make a transaction. The camera saw that actually happen. That's the nuts and bolts of what the chief is verifying on a
Yep.
quarterly basis, correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and if what
Because,
we're
yeah,
being
the
told
whole-
is true, you can't process a transaction without a license. You can't, you know, We just want to make sure that's in place.
Yeah. The whole
Not
point is
just
to
one
make
time.
sure that they don't sell to minors, so whatever we can do to make sure that what they're saying is correct, and
So I want to make sure I got that. Software, cameras, and I think you said something else.
The quarterly inspections by the chief to ensure that he can look at the transaction, test the system, if you will, to see it's working properly.
Okay, so, and I would add to that, I want my client to know when the chief is coming over.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I don't think it's a surprise.
Yeah, I don't want any surprises, but, yeah, okay.
What if it's not working? Then what happens?
Well, if it's not working, then he can't do any sales until
Would you agree to that?
it's repaired.
Okay.
yeah.
And I kind of want to know.
Well, they have to go talk about it, 'cause
Anything else? Okay, can I have a couple minutes?
Yeah, please.
Sure.
Please. We'll take, 2-3 minutes?
Yeah.
Do you want to put us in recess? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Can we?
We can go into recess.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, we're back.
Okay, back on the record.
Yes.
All right, so my client and I have discussed this. The basic thought behind it seems like a good idea. We have one concern, though. I want to put a time frame on the inspections that we've talked about, because if it's for an indefinite period of time with the inspections, it's going to affect the marketability of his ability to sell the license at some point. So what I'm going to propose is just a variation off of what you have suggested, which is that we have the inspections for the software, the cameras, and so forth, and you can do it on a quarterly basis if you want by Chief Crepo. But I'd like to suggest that we do it for 6 months only, because if it's any longer than that, and once he gets the store up and running, I hope, then he'd like to be able, at some point, to sell it.
How about it runs with the ownership?
Yeah.
Ends with his ownership.
Yeah.
If he sells it in 3 months, it's gone. Yeah, it's fine with me.
Yeah.
The onus is on the owner, not the.
Well, the license is also with the owner.
Right.
So, in other words, he can't, I know he wants to have an up and running business that includes the sale of beer and wine. I understand that. But from the license perspective, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, the license would get transferred, but we would have a process here, public hearing process, just like if it was a new liquor license.
Right, the selectmen would
Okay.
have the ability to,
That's right, because we're gonna vet the new owner, the new manager, how they're gonna run the facility, all that stuff like it's a new license. So he may be selling it, the establishment may have a license when he sells it, but he's not selling it with a license, as far as that's not part of the package that they're buying, because they're gonna have to come here
We have to renew it again.
and get issued or not issued a liquor license based on the merits of the new owner.
What about,
So,
if we grant this, it's gonna have to come back for renewal again in November, correct?
yes.
All right, so why don't we say till November, and then when November comes, when we go to renew again for a second time, we could always have a second motion that is the exact same motion we just gave. Correct?
Can revisit.
Revisit it.
Okay,
So have it for an indefinite period, but then we're gonna revisit it again in November,
and so we'll
because
we'll
we're
kind
gonna-
of gauge the pulse of it and how things are going.
Yeah, because if things are going great, then that might mean something, and if they're going bad, well, then we might not make it to November, so.
well, that might work. I mean, this is our chance to get ground rules, so, I mean, I like Ed's idea about having it with ownership. That way the new owner wouldn't have that burden. unless he earned it.
Well, your fail-safe is the renewal process.
Exactly. So that's why
So you're
it's
still
like,
gonna
yeah.
have it quarterly until then, so it's gonna happen at least twice before your next renewal. And you can put the same condition on it then.
I think that's probably a good compromise. Don't you say?
Yeah, I like it.
All right, so quarterly inspections, cameras, software done by Chief Crepo, with notice to, Mr. Chaudry. And we need to pick a time, I think, in November, because the deadline is, to renew a license is November 30th. And I don't want to go through that problem again. So, we should probably schedule a meeting with the selectmen in, I don't know, late October, early November, so we can, get a status on everything.
I just feel like you're just making this more complicated than it needs.
Yeah, I mean, no, what would happen is in November when we go to renew the licenses, yours will be there.
Yeah.
And you guys will probably be in the room. We'll say, what do you guys think? Should we keep going
Well,
with this, or is everyone happy?
Well,
I don't think we need a special meeting before that, or,
Well, a license, gets renewed automatically under the statute, so, but I mean, we're willing to work with these conditions that you're, suggesting. We're just trying to fine tune everything.
yeah.
Well, the chief's certainly gonna report back to me and to the board if there's an issue with
Yeah.
the 2 inspections that he does, so we may have that meeting anyways, but it won't be for the purpose of renewal, but we will, if it's issued tonight, we'll send the renewal notices like we do with every other applicant. And that'll be the normal process, and that'll happen for November.
All right, so, do you want to, come up with a tentative schedule on when these inspections would be? We've talked about it on.
No, you guys will figure that out with Chief Crapo, and we can get
With the
that.
chief?
Yep.
Okay,
All
I'm
right.
just gonna build a framework and a motion, so I'll,
Go ahead.
I move the board, no, I can't. I move the board. All right, I move the board allow the application for renewal under the following conditions. One, prior to any sales of alcohol taking place, the chief of police or his designee shall inspect the establishment and determine that the software proposed by the application is operational. Applicant is operational and that there are cameras recording all transactions. Two, the chief and his or her designee shall inspect the establishment on a quarterly basis after notice to the applicants to ensure that the software and cameras remain operational. Three, should the software or camera cease to be operational at any time, the applicant shall immediately and voluntarily cease all sales of alcohol and notify the chief.
Until, with the ownership piece. Oh, okay, that's it. Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion on this motion. So we have a motion to grant with conditions that the applicant has accepted, and so we'll just take a vote, and it doesn't need to be roll call?
No.
No? So all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, guys.
thank you. One other question, do you want to, address the new manager application that was also filed, tonight, having Mary Manoir, as the, new manager?
Yeah. I mean, I thought we did that with all of this, but yeah.
Okay.
Part of the
Part of the application, yep.
All right, so then, so she'll be the new manager?
Yep,
Yeah.
please.
Subject
We
to
would-
the regular approval by the ABCC, because it has to still go through them.
Yes.
Well, all right, I mean, through the usual channels of the
Yeah.
ABCC.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made a second discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Good night, everyone.